Hopefully this is the right one. Better not than another.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, Coach Steve. Today's episode, guys, we have a great one for you. We are getting into the on our tier episode series for the next month here. This is our first Thursday show of the year until the end of the year. It's going to be great. No Coach John tonight. He is currently en route to his home league, fantasy league, so he can't be on our show tonight. But we, of course, have Coach Jibbs. What's going on, Coach Jibbs?
Ain't much, man. Just another week in Fantasyland. How about yourself?
Not too bad, man. I have my cowboy hat on from Nashville still, so I'm rocking the cowboy life, as we call it now. So bringing it to Jersey, so can't complain. And we do have a special guest on, Coach Emerson. What is going on, brother? How you been?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for having me on. We've been working together so long. It's finally good to get on the podcast.
Absolutely. I think I've been trying to get you to come on. I finally got you to come on now. So this is going to be a great episode for all three of us here. So let's get right into things today. Let me just bring my slides to the first page here. Like I said, we're talking RB tiers today, guys. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're basically going to break down the first 24 running backs or so into tiers, and we'll kind of go from there. So before we do get started on that, we do have fantasy news to talk about. All right. So the first part of our news today, this is going to be stuff we're not going to talk too much about because there's some other things I'd like to get into. So just some minor signings. Mohamed Sanu signs with the Dolphins. Malcolm Brown signed with the Saints. Jeremy McNichols signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers and already on the IR with a shoulder injury. Corey Kmet signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Jackson signed with the Detroit Lions. Some wide receivers I think they're all from the 2019 draft. DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuels, and Deontay Johnson all receiving extensions. So they will luckily be playing for us at least this season. Unfortunately, Chris Carson retires from football. Sad to hear from that. And also Danny Amendola. He's not really relevant, but I feel like throwing him in there anyway. And Deshaun Watson, we were going to talk about Deshaun Watson and the 6-game suspension that he was going to have, but now the NFL has appealed that. We'll find out what happens with that matter. I figured we just won't get too much into that until we really know how much and how long he's going to be suspended for. So that's mostly the basic news we're going to get into. So we do have some other ones, though. We have injuries. James Washington is scheduled to miss 6 to 10 weeks with a foot fracture. Van Jefferson is getting foot surgery. He's in doubt for week 1, but it seems like that would be only maybe week 2 as well, but he's more likely to play. Van Jefferson is probably more of a drafted player in redrafts right now. Are you guys touching him with maybe a late round pick at this point, or are you just going to see how he is recovering wise?
You know, that's tough. I had so much Van Jefferson before this, so that hurt to see that he had foot surgery and maybe will miss part of the season. I've dropped him a couple rounds. You know, I've been playing a lot of underdogs, so you know, he was a popular 12th, 13th round pick for me. But now, you know, he might if he's there in the 15th round or something like that, I'd be willing to draft him. But it definitely puts him back there for me.
I'm letting them go on waivers. I think I'd rather just have some upside early plays early on in the season and then kind of get them off the waiver list in a couple weeks afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's I like the torn decision here from my part here. I probably would draft it depending on how my team is structured with that 15, 16 round pick, depending on how deep you guys go, just to see if you have an IR spot and he goes on he's out for the first few games, you throw him on the IR for the first couple of weeks. But I mean, there's potential there. He did 800 yards this past last season, so it's got to be worth a shot to take him on those late round picks to see if, maybe he can still be great as he is, even with the foot surgery this past off season. And then the biggest news, we've gotten our first out of the season player, which sucks. Favorite of mine, Tim Patrick, torn ACL in his right knee, out for the season. Now, boys, does anyone impact in a positive matter with him being out now? Is it Cortland Sutton? Is it Jerry Jeudy? Maybe it's Albert O, KJ Hamler. Who gets the biggest impact positively? It's Tim being out.
I was always a pretty big Jerry Jeudy fan before this. I have Sutton and Jerry Jeudy just a couple spots different in redraft, and I have Jeudy ahead of my dynasty ranking from Sutton. So, this gives him, I didn't move Jerry Jeudy, I guess, and Sutton up too much. I guess they both moved up a couple spots for me just for that added extra couple targets. But KJ Hamler is somebody I'm definitely keeping an eye out for. I also think this helps out Aquaboon quite a bit. Just getting a few more opportunities for him, getting a few more touchdown grabs. I think this definitely opens the door for him. KJ Hamler, those are probably my big movers. I probably move them up about maybe 12 spots or so.
For me, I think they all benefit to a degree. We're not going to see like all Tim Patrick's targets go to one specific player, but like it definitely gives me more confidence in Albert O in particular. I think he'll have a little bit more time to shine. And obviously, like we already were in bed with Jeudy and Sutton. I don't see their like ADPs rising that significantly. So I think for redraft perspective and while you're drafting, I think it kind of benefits like Coach Emery says those two latter players, KJ Hamler and Albert O, because those guys are going to move up a little bit based off this recent news.
Yeah, I think you guys said it best there. I mean, it could be almost anyone to me personally right now. I don't think anyone in particular. I mean, KJ Hamler obviously is going to slide in as that third wide receiver, so he clearly, I think, takes a boost in that matter there. Albert O, you might feel more confident now in him just because you weren't really sure with him and Greg Dulcich on how that tight end situation was going to go and if there was going to be enough targets for both these guys to be successful. So there's definitely possibilities. You probably lock in Sutton and Jeudy for top 7-round picks now, at least probably maybe 6, depending on how high you'd like to go with these guys. So it sucks to lose Tim Patrick. I definitely have him in a few leagues in terms of dynasty, but at least we found out before redraft season really got a hold because we hate to see people go out after you draft them. So I did a best ball and I wasn't looking and it was under underdog and it drafted Tim Patrick. I was like, great. So one guy's already out for the season on my team. And I didn't have a chance to switch him out. So it is what it is. Hopefully he comes back and healthy next season. So the only other thing tonight, Thursday Night Football is on tonight, guys. Jags, Raiders, great to see. Definitely going to tune into it. So even though it's preseason, it's still football at this point. It's been a long 6 months now. So yeah, it's fun that way. And of course, the biggest news, Julio Jones signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, boys, how do you guys feel about Julio Jones' value, and who does it hurt with him coming to Tampa?
The Russell Gage is the big loser here to me. I don't think this affects, maybe it takes away Mike Evans' ceiling, maybe just a tad. Maybe he is slotting more into that role that he had last season opposed to getting a lot of more targets like a lot of people thought. Russell Gage moves down for me a couple rounds. I wouldn't be willing more to take him more in the 9-10 round range. Julio Jones, he's a tough one to rank. I'm putting, I've struggled with it. I have him like in that borderline wide receiver 3 range. But I think, I wouldn't expect him to fill that Antonio Brown role fully last season. But, somewhere that Antonio Brown light role, I think he'll have some big games. If he signed with anybody else, I might not have paid attention. But Tom Brady just seems to get the best out of everybody. If no matter who's playing for him, if they're on the field, it seems like they get targets, whether it's Scotty Miller even or Grayson or Chris Grayson, I think that's his name. But whoever is out there, they seem to perform. So I think Julio Jones definitely gets on my radar, but definitely moves Russell Gage down a bit.
No, you heard my opinion, Steve. I say he's gonna be on IR by week 4. So
yeah, I did text you and you were like, you just gave me a thumbs down when I said, what do you think about Julio to the Bucs?
So trash. But I think Julio probably maxes out as a wide receiver 3, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent one by any means. Like even Antonio Brown last year, he wasn't playing the full allotment of snaps. So like you're not getting that much volume on a week-to-week basis. Like it's going to be hard for you to be reliable in fantasy. Russell Gage definitely took a like if you look in the beginning episodes, that's a guy I was pretty high on as well. So like those two values are going to be interchangeable. And I also kind of think it takes a little damper on little Cameron Brate, Kyle Rudolph signings if you're like into those, seen how they can have a bigger role. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this one, but they pretty much got the best chef in town.
Yeah, I mean, they're just adding to the talent they have. I think the tight ends
Madden.
overall just aren't draftable at this point. Unless something happens where Brady's going to have another historic season, maybe that's possible with him. Julio Jones himself, I think you guys said it best. I mean, low end wide receiver 3 for me. I mean, yeah, he's going to have a couple boom weeks here and there, but I don't think it's going to be consistent. When we saw with Antonio Brown there, I think they're just two different types of wide receivers, and I don't think Julio, with his injury history the last few seasons now, it's kind of hard to trust him to be more than a low-end wide receiver 3 at best. Russell Gage, yeah, he kind of falls in that low-end wide receiver 3. I think I'd still want to take Russell Gage over Julio. Just youth, I think he will fit the offense really well still. Again, they might throw 4 wide receiver sets out there. These guys all might go off any given week, and I think that's the biggest issue with Julio going to the Bucs, is that almost anyone at this point could just go off and have a wide receiver 1 week. And you just kind of have to kind of play your cards and hope for the best with these guys. I mean, you expect consistent production from Evans, hopefully, and Godwin, as long as he's healthy, which it seems like he is. But the other guys are going to be boomer busts each and every week as wide receiver 3s, and you just never know who's really going to go off unless we see some kind of consistency during the season. So it's definitely fun to see star players go to great places, but definitely would have had him go to the Packers over the Bucs. But it is what it is. We'll see how it works out. So that is the end of the news, guys. A lot to cover. We're going to have a lot of news for the next month here now. We're just going to be talking news. It seems like, probably with injuries, hype stuff, signings, whatever it may be. So hopefully we'll get through it as quicker than we could today. So we have things to talk about. RB tiers. Now, these are my RB tiers here, kind of to some extent here. The way I kind of see it, again, anyone's could be right. You guys might hate the tiers that I have. I don't know. We haven't talked about it yet. So I'm getting ready to have my feelings not hurt, hopefully. But of course, the top tier, I know you're ready to come at me, but the top tier, the tier 1 RB, I feel like it has to be just Jonathan Taylor by himself. Overall, again, I've asked you guys questions. Do you believe that there should be someone else in this tier? Should he have it? Should he be in his own tier? Should he not be? And do you believe that he is a guy who can repeat? There's very few running backs that's been able to repeat as RB1s over the last decade. Todd Gurley is the last one to do it. Do you guys believe this is possible?
I'll let Jibs go on. I know he's chomping at the bit. I can see it. I'll let him.
Oh, no, not for Jonathan Taylor. By your own right, yeah, Jonathan Taylor does deserve to be in his own tier, because like the only other person I would put in there is Christian McCaffrey. When he was upright, we saw this guy score 30 PPR points. Even like when he got hurt earlier on, he was on a high tier in PPR leagues. So the team hasn't gotten much better. Like, I know the quarterbacks has been in shambles, but it's still DJ Moore outside. Christian McCaffrey is going to be doing his things. So like just how you feel on Christian McCaffrey definitely depends on that. But Jonathan Taylor, I think he definitely could repeat as RB1 unless CMC kind of has a full year to go. But if I had the number 1 pick, I'm picking Jonathan Taylor, so I'll let that rise. So, but yeah, he's a man child, and he's a beast, and I can't say nothing else about the guy.
I agree. I don't think there's any better bet this season. Just that locked-in workload. I know Nyheim Hines is going to get some. I know he's going to catch some passes, but Jonathan Taylor's locked in for a very heavy workload. He's extremely talented. As talented as any running back in the league. The only thing holding him back from, that Christian McCaffrey, kind of role is he's not going to catch quite as many passes. I think he has the safest floor of anybody in fantasy. I wouldn't, but unless I'm doing 1,000 drafts, he's my number 1 pick regardless. Especially, in underdog drafts, you're not going to be able to get exposure to him at any other pick other than the 1-1. So you might as well take him there. The other person, I do agree. I would put Christian McCaffrey in this tier in my redraft and best ball. It's a risk it for the biscuit. It's it's all or nothing in redraft and best ball leagues, especially in those larger tournaments. CMC can make that difference, I think, for you. If he's injured, in the first game of the season, that's tough. You're moving on, but I think he gives you, there's nobody else that's going to win your league. I think at that point in the draft, Eckler, Mixon, Chase, Cup, I don't think Kupp's going to have that quite the same year as he did last year. So I think CMC is the pick after, at the 1-2 that can still, you can win your league with Christian McCaffrey still. So I like him there.
All right, you guys kind of said a lot of things that I was probably would have said honestly. Yes, CMC would be the only one for me that I would consider. But with Jonathan Taylor, it's just youth, good offense, healthy, and most of the running backs in this next couple of tiers we'll talk about or have those issues, or at least one of those issues. And I think Jonathan Taylor does not have any of those issues, which is great. And I think there could be a slight chance. I don't think anyone's talking much about it because of Nyheim Hines, but there could be a chance that Jonathan Taylor does see an uptake in targets. We know that Matt Ryan has been very targeted to the running back position heavily over the last few seasons now. So there's potential for him to maybe break 60 to 65, maybe even 70. Might be too much, but there's potential there still. So that's kind of why overall he's in his own tier, and he well deserved it last year. So, all right, next one, we have the tier 2, and I call it the first round elites, basically running backs that are worth a first round pick right now in drafts. Now, there's others, and we'll mention that in a few seconds, but this list is compiled of Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, and the honorable mention of Alvin Kamara. Again, his suspension is not going to be heard until September 28th now. So there's some risk involved. I have him in a different tier personally, but I just wanted to mention him here if something were to change between now and your draft. So how do you guys feel about this tier? Is there someone that shouldn't be in it? Maybe there's someone should be in it overall.
I actually have all the people that you have in this tier. I have the exact same one, and I have a very large tier too. All my other tiers were actually pretty small. I have 11 running backs in this tier. They're so hard to differentiate between them. I also have Javonte Williams in this tier. I have DeAndre Swift in this tier. I have Aaron Jones in this tier. I have Leonard Fournette in this tier. I have Saquon Barkley in this tier. So I have a few more guys there. I just think they're right up there too. I guess I could have done a small separate. Maybe it's good, but maybe I could have put a small separation there. But I just think all those guys are really talented. All those guys are going to catch a lot of passes. All these guys. There's some. Health is a question mark with a couple of these guys. CMC, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. Maybe like the offensive situation with Najee Harris. That's going to keep him from. There's small question marks about him, but yeah, these are guys locked in for a heavy workload. I've been going heavy running back, and everyone seems to be going wide receiver crazy in drafts this year. I was always wide receiver heavy in all my drafts prior to this year. I was always banging the wide receiver drum, but now all my drafts, I'm leaving with 2 or 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds or so. It just seems like this is the year that, there's a lot of great running backs. It seems like to take a chance on this year, so I like that tier a lot actually.
Okay. I have no beef with your tiers right there. That whole list right there screams volume, and that's what Jibs loves in fantasy. So you can't go wrong. You have the 2 top pass catchers in the league. You have some bulldozers in Henry and Harris, and then you got good running backs on good offenses with Cook and Mixon. So I have no concerns whatsoever.
Yeah, to me, I think at the end of the day, when I thought of this tier here, it was volume. They're going to lead their team at least 70% or so of the touches overall this coming season here. Someone that you get them, they're going to be your RB1 all season. They're going to put up 15 plus fantasy points most weeks basically for you. Each one of them is an elite on their own and how talented they are, and they've all performed at a high level already. We've seen it from these guys here. So I just want to talk about a few of them because I just want to kind of talk about guys we really haven't talked about much on the show this season. And the first one's Najee Harris here. Now, how do you guys feel overall about Najee right now? Is he a safe one in the first round? Because you think of a lot of these guys are injury prone to some extent, or maybe they're coming off a big season where it just doesn't seem maybe they can keep that, like Austin Eckler in the touchdowns or Joe Mixon in his season this past year. Najee Harris, the situation really didn't change. He's only got Benny Snell behind him. There's really no one else behind him that really can compete with his talent. So do you guys consider him a safe first-round pick, or is there issues with him that you guys don't like?
I wouldn't let him out of the first round. He's a lower first round pick for me. I'm just slightly lower than consensus. I do have Dalvin Cook ahead of him. I have Joe Mixon ahead of him. I have Derrick Henry ahead of him. I have Saquon Barkley ahead of him. And that's only because I think he's going to catch a lot less passes this year. Ben Roethlisberger threw over 600 times last year. I don't think that's going to happen this year with whoever's a quarterback. And I really think it's concerning that Mason Rudolph is weaseling his way into the starting conversation. I don't take that as a good sign. But Mitchell Trubisky, I think's looked okay. I think it'll be Mitchell Trubisky out there, but I think it'll definitely be, they'll get a lot of carries, but defenses are going to focus on him. I'm a little concerned maybe about the offense not being that great too. Maybe a little less plays, less touchdown opportunities. Like I said, I wouldn't let him out of the first round, but he's more in that 110 to 112 range for me.
For me, yeah, he's a tail end of the first round guy for me. I think I would personally take. I think it's Joe Mixon and Harris. That's where I'm gonna be split at. But I think I'd rather have a couple of the wide receivers ahead of him just to be a little safe. But like Najee Harris is gonna get at least, even if he doesn't get 370 touches like he did last year, he's gonna get at least 330, 340. I don't know how much the reception is going to go down with the new quarterback in town, but like I know one thing, this offense is going to flow through him, and at least I'm going to get a 300 touch running back. Worst comes to worst, he's like a David Montgomery. It's just 20 carries and whatnot, and then you just give me a touchdown. Like I'll still take that for what it's worth, but that's the only concern I have with Najee Harris is just the offense. Like I know he's going to get the work, but is this work going to be convertible into good fantasy stat lines?
And that's a nice way to put it there. I think the highest I'd probably take him is the 1.8 personally. I just feel like he is a safe bet this year overall. You look at a lot of guys on this list, there are issues with them. Yes, his biggest issue is the passing volume. How big is that going to drop? I don't know if it's going to drop to where I think he had 90 targets last year, if it's going to drop in half almost. I don't know if it's going to do that personally. I mean, is Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph apparently now, are they really going to be airing the ball out that much, or they're going to have to check it down because they're getting pressured or often and early? So I think there's potential there. It's probably not 90, but if he gets somewhere in that 55 to 60 range still, I think that's really possible with him. I feel like if he just doesn't get hurt, which fortunately he's a little banged up at camp, but as long as he can stay healthy all season. I mean, there's a great chance for him to repeat. If he get his yards per carry up, that's a pretty big thing. But I just find him as a safe pick overall in the first round. So another question in this round here is Dalvin Cook being overlooked as a first round pick, guys. I mean, I feel like people aren't really talking about Dalvin Cook that much this season here. We know he's a first round pick, but no one's really talking about him. I think in the last couple of years, we really loved him as a player, and a lot of people seem to do, but he's just not being talked about enough. Is he being overlooked in this first round?
I like Dalvin Cook in the first round. In a dynasty league, for example, I'm not drafting Dalvin Cook. He wouldn't be in the top 5 rounds for me. But like I was saying earlier, it's kind of a more risk it for the biscuit approach in redraft and best ball leagues. Dalvin Cook's going to be on a great offense. There's that injury. His shoulder didn't look good at the end of last season. The injury didn't look. I remember at least I had one owner in one of my fantasy leagues. They traded Dalvin Cook for Alexander Mattison straight up. That was that's how bad the news lines were actually terrible right after the injury. They were like, oh my goodness, like is he never going to be the same again? So just like there was like a 48-hour news cycle, and he really fell for it, I guess. But so but like I was saying, Dalvin Cook I think is a great target. He's going to be on a great offense. If he's healthy, he's going to get a ton of volume. As we've seen that Alexander Mattison seems like he only comes in when Dalvin Cook's hurt. So. He is my RB5. I think that's a bit ahead of consensus just because I love the offense. And that's another guy I think, he's so talented. And if he's healthy, that's another guy, league winning potential, right? I know that's kind of an overused word, but I like him at his ADP, and I think I'm a bit above him actually.
Well, I remember prepping for little drafts and I was looking at Fantasy Pros like a couple weeks ago, and I noticed Cook was a little bit lower. And now I'm looking at it today; he's top 5, he's 4th. So I don't know. So I don't know if he's. I think he's getting a little bit of traction, but still, there is a little kind of slight on him. I was on ESPN looking at their little cheat sheets. They have him 10th. I'll run to the podium and grab Dalvin Cook at 10. So ESPN, get your shit together, But I'll love to have Dalvin Cook. I know he's going to be kind of sign me up to miss like 2 or 3 games during the season. But when he's in there, he's a rock star. And I know certain people are concerned about the Minnesota Vikings' new approach to being more pass-friendly offense. But still, like last time I checked, Dalvin Cook could catch a damn ball, so I'm not scared of that. And even though we've seen Madison kind of fill in admirably at times, but like I don't see Madison like, getting significant splits on a week-to-week basis. So till that happens, and if Dalvin Cook's giving me 20 touch guy a week, I'm still going to take him.
He only had 4 touchdowns last year too. I mean, like that's insane. So I mean, that has to go
take a nod up.
Going up.
It's got to go up. Another thing to note is that he was regressing each season in his receptions and targets. So hopefully with this new look offense, that we could kind of see a bump back up for him, including the touchdowns. So I think he is being slightly overlooked, and definitely if he's sitting in that 6 to 10 range, I mean, you got to almost take him because depending who's there, he's just going to produce that RB1 tier number. So, all right, let's go to the tier 3 guys. Round 2 upsides. Running backs that go in this round 2 area that have potential elite upsides. In this tier, it's Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Saquon Barkley. Now, I'll start off with the first question. Is there someone that shouldn't be in this tier, or someone should be in this tier that we're not talking about?
You know,
Javonte in round 2, personally.
Who?
Yep.
Javonte.
All right. You guys into the news today? You guys aren't scared of the news that was out there today?
I love it.
Was it
give
in
me
the
more
news?
Javonte. I've been pounding the drum all off. You know what? It's not. I'm staking. I'm planting my flag. Javonte Williams is getting at 70% of the workload. I know. I don't care. And I said that before that report that he had 70% of the carries. I was saying that I'm not worried about a camp split. I don't think that's going to be indicative of how a game actually plays out. I think Javonte Williams was the RB16 on a really bad offense last year. I think he's going to finish a lot higher than that. More touchdowns, more plays, bigger share of the workload. He's a locked in RB1 for me. I have him firmly in that running back second tier actually.
What was the said news that I was missing?
Oh, just the beat writers at first were saying that it was going to be more of a 70-30, and then another beat writer said, no, the way it's looking, it's probably going to be similar to what we saw last year, but with Williams being the lead guy.
Okay. That's my concern. So, because like even if you like, I'm gonna get a little bit ahead to your second question though. Like in Cleveland, you have Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, kind of similar situation. But when you look at the whole ifs and bangs of it, like Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon last year were playing pretty much 50-50, and that goes rushing snaps, that goes snap percentage, and all that good stuff. While meanwhile, like in Cleveland, like you have Nick Chubb sitting at 50, you got Hunt sitting at 30, and then you got the third running back like all down there and whatnot. So I think if the similar thing happens with Javonte Williams this year, and touchdowns could go anyway. Like I know I think he had 10 and Melvin had 8 or so, but you still got Russell Wilson, you got all the explosive new offense. So I don't know if they're all going to go to running backs because they have a better quarterback and they're not going to be so run opposed, but that's just me. And people can plant that flag to get that Javonte up in that late second round, but I'm not going to be one of those campers.
I've been picking him up. Right at that second, third round turn. Give me Javonte Williams. Absolutely, I love it. He's one of my big. I've been pounding that drum. You can look at my Twitter today. I just posted today. I was like, he is a top 10. All right. You know what? I actually put him at 11. I was just telling people on Twitter today he's a top 10 running back, and I just put him at 11.
I love it.
But no, I loved Williams this year. It's just I see him improving from last year. He was the RB16 last year. I think he's and do we forget how much we hated Melvin Gordon his whole career? I mean, we always hate. We were always like he's not that good. He's only getting the volume. I think he's 29. I think we see a step back this year, especially as the season goes on.
Okay. Yeah, this tier for me, guys, was mostly that there's one thing I feel like there's one thing wrong about these guys that's pretty obvious overall. And to me, it's like Nick Chubb, he's got to deal with, the passing volume. He doesn't really have it. There's someone there. Javonte Williams, I do believe personally that Melvin Gordon will eat into his work. Again, we don't know how much. Maybe it's not as much as I'm thinking it could possibly be, and it's not based on what I heard. But just in general, Melvin Gordon has been a great running back in the NFL. So there's got to be a reason that he's came back. They could have went another direction. They could have went a youth route. Could have went a different direction. They brought back a guy who is familiar overall with this team. DeAndre Swift is great, but he's always getting knocked out with injuries the last couple seasons. He's been in the league now. So to me, that's a concern, even though he has that big upside. Aaron Jones, but again, I just don't know. We talk about Aaron Jones seeing an increased volume. How big is that increase in capacity, and how much is he really going to see? And Saquon Barkley, we know about his injury history. I mean, it's just that's what it is. So these guys all have potential to be RB1s easily. Any one of them could be an RB1, in my opinion. So did I really have a question? I think, Jibbs, you really much answered the question. So, Emerson, I'll just let you answer it. Who's more impactful, Kareem Hunt or Melvin Gordon?
Between the talent between the two, I don't think it's very close. I think Kareem Hunt, unless he's lost something in the past year, we really didn't see much last year. But, if we're going back to 2020 Kareem Hunt, I think he's a lot more talented than Melvin Gordon. I'm a Chiefs fan, so I got to see Kareem Hunt back before, back when he was with Patrick Mahomes and, Alex Smith, even that first year. And, he's one of the best backs in the league when healthy. And I think he's a much bigger difference maker than Melvin Gordon, especially if you look at more of the advanced metrics and everything. But you never know. Like I said, I could be totally wrong. Just like the beat reports I've been reading, the hype, the stuff the coach is saying, I think Williams takes a bigger step forward. I think Melvin Gordon is going to be solid in that backup role this year. I think I don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be part of the offense. But I see Kareem Hunt probably impacting Nick Chubb, I think, more than Gordon will impact Williams.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jibbs, you saw the trade that we made today in the contract league?
Hurts and some bum for I don't remember.
It was we traded. I traded for Deshaun Watson. I'm
okay. Yeah, I hate that bum.
Well, you know what? Just speaking on the fantasy, I'm losing. I'm getting Jalen. I'm sending Jalen Hurts on a 1-year contract for Watson on a 3-year contract. I inherited a bad team, so I'm completely rebuilding. So I have a bunch of first-round picks next year. Completely empty. Going to have full cap space basically. So I'm going all in next season, but just looking for a quarterback on a longer contract.
Well, bad team. Let's go.
I got Jalen Hurts and Melvin Gordon. So
that's
why I had to mention Melvin Gordon there. So, but let's get to tier 4 now. Tier 4 is at RBs with potential for RB1 seasons. Now this is where Alvin Kamara kind of comes in just due to his suspension overall, because I don't know if he misses games during the season, how many games that could be. Leonard Fournette is in this tier, and of Zeke Elliott is in this tier as well. Now, is there someone in this 3 people tier here that they not belong, that someone should belong?
I actually have all 3 of these players above this tier. I have Fournette in tier 2. I have Fournette and Kamara in tier 2. I'm operating. I don't think Kamara is going to get suspended this season. So I'm going under that assumption. I have him in my tier 2. I have actually Zeke Elliott in my tier 3, actually. So my tier 4 is a bit different, but I moved up some guys from your other tier to mine. But so yeah, but I guess in a sense I really like all these guys compared to this ranking. So Leonard Fournette, I've been buying that weight dip. I got him on my SFB 12 team, on my Warrior Bowl team, on all the charity leagues. I have Leonard Fournette. That was when all the weight issues were going down. He's back at 245. I think he's locked in for a big role. I have him as my RB 13, but like I said, he's in my tier 2. I have 11 running backs in my tier 2 because I think they're all so close. So I really like Leonard Fournette. Alvin Kamara, he's just going to be locked in for volume. Jibbs was saying, locked in for volume. I love so Kamara's a good buy for me right now, especially since he's still being ranked a little bit lower because of the suspension risks. And Zeke Elliott, another guy, just volume. These guys are all, big volume guys. Maybe they're getting a little bit older, that, they're slowing down a bit, but volume is king in fantasy.
Where's my man Monty at, bro? I know he's a bum, but he gets volume too.
All right, so you think he could be in this tier, I guess?
Not really. I would pick all those guys.
We'll get to him. He's in today's show for sure. So.
Honestly, I probably would have Alvin and Leonard 1 tier up from your stuff, Steve, and then I think Zeke will lead the next tier. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, I kind of threw this middle tier just in there. I don't know. I didn't like it at the time, but it is what it is. So let's talk about Alvin Kamara, because I feel like we haven't talked much about Alvin Kamara on our show this season here. What is your realistic expectation for him, guys? Because, you know what? We saw last year Alvin Kamara. I think he was banged up a little bit. There's some quarterback issues overall. You know, first time he didn't get over 81 receptions. It was a little shocking. He is older now, though. What is your expectation for him now with this new offense, with Jameis Winston, with a bunch of new wide receivers here now? You know, are we going to see the old Alvin Kamara where he's getting 81 receptions in the season, or we're going to see a slightly different kind of Alvin Kamara now?
I think it's going to be a little different. I don't expect him to get back to that competing for, that top running back spot anymore. I think he'll be in that second tier. I don't think he'll quite catch as many passes. Him and Drew Brees had a pretty special relationship, and it seemed like to be transitioning a little bit out of that last year. He was used more rushing than he ever has in his career. I think that could be the case this year. Like I said, I like him I love him at his ADP right now because he's going at a discount due to his suspension. If he was going in the first round, I would be less excited. I don't think I'd draft him as a first round pick. But yeah, he's a great value to me right now because that suspension is looming. And I think it'll get pushed to next season anyway. But I think, like I said, I think volume's going to drive Kamara. I don't think he's going to have that great efficiency like he has, all that volume. So he's a little bit lower for me this year than he has been in the past. But like I said, with the suspension keeping his value down, I like it.
I agree with all those points, and we also got to mention, I haven't seen the Saints wide receiver core look this full in the time since Alvin Kamara's been there. It's been Michael Thomas, and that's about it for the most part, and Jared Cook when he wants to put in time. But I think that kind of will have an impact on Alvin Kamara's reception total as well, not even including what Breeze was just giving him on top. So maybe instead of being the 80 catch guy, I think he kind of caps out at that 50 range if he plays a full season, but that's just kind of what it is. But you're still getting a terrific running back. I'll see him rotating Mark Ingram, and he just like Melvin Gordon. Mark Ingram's 80 years old in the running back world, so I don't see him being a significant threat in the backfield. And they already went to the Tony Jones experiment, so it's Alvin Kamara or bust in my eyes.
Yeah, I think you guys said it best there overall. I don't. Anyone should not expect him to be a top 8 player anymore at this point. Maybe 8 or 9, but you just don't expect him to be that elite producer anymore, I think. I mean, I feel like Alvin Kamara is just not meant to run the ball between the tackles that often. He's just not what he was designed to do. He's more of that, pass catching back there. And they used him in a different way last year, and I think that's the wrong decision for them to use overall. I mean, you saw his yards per carry just drop last year with more volume overall. It's just that they couldn't get things going. And he was number one on, I think, the team's target share list last year, if I'm not mistaken. And with all these new wide receivers sitting here, and now you have to assume that he's going to be in that 2-3 range. Maybe at this point, he's probably not going to be number one. I doubt that Jameis Winston is going to throw to his RBs that often, where it's going to be another big season for a guy like Alvin Kamara. So we'll hope to see the best for him. But yeah, I think you should just lower your expectation just a little bit. We're not seeing the same guy we used to over the last 4 years. So, all right, over to Tier 5. Tier 5 has those high-end RB2s, guys like Cam Akers, James Conner, and Dave Montgomery. There you go, Jibs. Guys are likely to end up as a high-end RB2, probably not an RB1 status in their future finish for an entire season. Same question, guys. Anyone that should be here, or should these guys not be here?
I have Montgomery a tier lower. I just have him a bit below these guys. I just switched up my tiers a little bit. I actually have him in my tier 5 tier. I just have, these other guys actually I have a little bit above him. David Montgomery, I just see as he's going to be in a bad offense this year. I think the Bears are going to be, just less plays, less scoring opportunities. The game script isn't going to be favorable toward him. Justin Fields is going to take a lot of the rushing attempts. He's not quite as exciting to me as these other two. Cam Akers, I think, it's just, I've been talking about it today. That's another guy, just kind of a lottery ticket. If he catch, I love the risk just because if he hits and he's healthy, man, you're getting us the starting running back and a great offense. And that's, in the round 4 or 5, that's a great value there. So I've been taking a lot of Cam Akers. He's one of my most drafted running backs on Underdog. James Conner, another running back, great offense. Is he going to stay healthy? That's kind of it's all potential with James Conner too. He had 20 touchdowns last year, so I don't think that's repeatable. But If he stays on the field for 15 or 16 games, it's hard to see him finishing lower than this.
For me, I guess I'm a little slightly higher on Connor. Like, I really can't just like bank on injuries every single year with these guys. So, just like you mentioned, like we saw what he did last year. There's not that much competition whatsoever. Darrell Williams. So like, if he could still kind of repeat that role, that get some pass catching duties, I'll take Connor probably a tier higher. Monty and Akers were kind of similar to me. I liked your point saying he's going to play on a bad offense. Monty's been playing on bad offense since he came as a rookie, in my opinion. So, and every year we're always talking about at the end of the year where this man's busting loose, being the top high in RB from your playoff runs. So, like my philosophy, volume, and I think I'm perfectly fine with Monty being here, maybe slightly higher, but I don't really like Akers. I'm scared.
I respect it. I respect it. Now, are these guys round 2 picks or round 3 or even lower for you guys right now?
Not 2.
Definitely round 4. Round 4 for me for James Conner and Cam Akers. I see James Conner's ADP's heading that way. He was going in the mid 3rd round. He was going in the end of the 3rd round. Seems like he's going to settle maybe in that 4th round range, and I'm fine with him there. Cam Akers, he's going in that 4th, 5th round, but I'm fine with Cam Akers in the 4th round just based on the upside. Like I said, if you're in a 12-man league, redraft league, you got to hit on some stuff. Everyone's trying to win. It's not like a dynasty league where half the teams aren't competing. So I think you got to go for it, especially in those big tournaments. If Cam Akers is healthy and comes back and is in a great offense, like I said, I think that's great value.
Realistically, I could see if I was drafting and I had it in any order, I'll probably take James Conner at the middle of round 3, closer to the start. I'll take Monty in the middle, and I wouldn't touch Cam probably to the end of the 3rd round.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like at best, I feel like their high end is late round 3. Probably round 4 makes a lot more sense for all these guys, just based on their situations and their teams overall and their question marks that they have in themselves. So, next part here, Cam Akers or James Conner, who scares you more with their injury concerns right now?
I think that's pretty. Cam Akers obviously has the more injury concerns. That Achilles is very scary. Like I said, it's just something. I like to take some big risks. I play in tons of underdog drafts. I'll probably end up doing over 100. So I got to spread. I got to take some risks. I play with some different lineups and stuff. And I think Cam Akers is somebody I certainly want some exposure to, just in case he's healthy and he hits on that offense. James Conner. I think he has a lot less upside. I think he's entirely dependent on that touchdown and volume. I don't think he's not a guy who's overly talented. Just purely he's going to rely on that volume, and hopefully you're just hoping he hits double-digit touchdowns again.
Since you put injury in the question, it's definitely Cam Akers, just because if he gets injured, is he going to get the job back? He still has Darrell Henderson there, complimentary backs that he could be serviceable. We've seen Darrell Henderson be a RB1, same as Cam Akers been in the past. So I don't think he'll have the job completely back if he gets injured. So that's why I'm giving a little bit of nod to Conner in that matter.
See, I feel like it would be the other way around for me personally at this point. I
Connor's
feel
a
like
tank,
if James Conner loses, if he gets hurt, I think Darrell Williams just runs away with the job at that point. I don't really, personal opinion there. I mean, I feel like Sean McDermott just loves Cam Akers for some God knows reasons. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably Akers overall just because his injuries are more recent, even though we've seen Conner be injured over his career. I mean, he was injured at the end of last year. He missed games. So we'll see how it works. But, yeah, I mean, these guys they're RB2s for me. I mean, I would hate to have them as my RB1. I'd feel sick to my stomach. But some people might end up going that route there. So, all right, let's go over to the last tier of the night. The RB tiers, tier 6, the RB tiers with question marks. Strong players as RB2s, but comes with concerns. I feel like almost every one of these guys comes with some kind of concern here. And this group includes Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell, J.K. Dobbins, Brees Hall, and Travis Etienne. Now, do the guys belong in this tier? Should they belong somewhere else, or is there people we're missing?
You got it completely right.
I have I'm a little higher on Brees Hall and ETN. I have them in my RB4 tier. I just love the pass catching ability, especially in PPR leagues. I think they're gonna, I think they're just gonna be a big part of the offenses. I know I've lowered ETN just a little bit just because James Robinson accelerated timeline. I still think it'll be ETN's. I think he'll still lead in snaps though. Maybe James Robinson does get a lot some early down work. So I'm a little bit higher on those two. Josh Jacobs is somebody I like a lot too. Just compared to ADP, he's not somebody I've been a big fan of in the past. But Antonio Gibson too. Antonio Gibson and Josh Jacobs are the same. I think they finish high every year. But maybe this is his David Montgomery argument. But yeah, it just seems like they're getting disrespected this season. It's a fringe RB2s. The Raiders are going to be a good offense. I think the Raiders could be inclined to run the hell out of Jacobs this year since it's in his last year of his contract. Gibson, I get Brian Robinson in the third round. I know Gibson was a third round running back too, but if people were valuing Gibson as an RB1 at the end of last season, I know it's a little bit of coach speak, but Brian Robinson isn't a third round pick isn't going to scare me away that much. So I like a lot of these guys in this year. It's just I've been going heavy running back this year just because it seems like people were going crazy for the running backs the last couple of years. Now all these guys who would have been going in round 3 or 4 these last couple of years going round 5, 6 or so. So there are a lot of good values here, I think.
I can see why you go running back so early, Emerson. Because if this is like your third running back for your selection, I'll be like chop my licks, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Personally, like anytime I get to a draft, doing a mock draft or whatever, and I get to this tier, I'm just like, oh my god, this is like disgusting because you just don't know what you're gonna get, and obviously you got to play the long game. And Gibson, obviously, like he's kind of concerning to me because they brought back McKissick, they had Robinson. This guy's kind of not. I wouldn't say they're misusing him properly, but it doesn't feel like they're showing like a strong commitment to him. So spending like a top 48 pick on Gibson kind of makes me cringe for the most parts. I think some of these other guys you're gonna get a little bit later, but I was pretty big on Travis Etienne, but like the Robinson news is throwing me in the spiral. So like you never know with these guys. Like Brees Hall and Etienne definitely have a league-winning upside once they get into their proper roles and they produce points, but like Elijah Mitchell and J.K. Dobbins, I just feel like they're accidents waiting to happen.
All right. I like your guys' takes on that there for sure. That's why I didn't get hurt too much today, guys. I appreciate that, to be honest. There. I didn't get my feelings hurt too badly there. But again, I think a lot of these guys have question marks on, committees, poor offenses, coming off injuries. I feel like there's just so many question marks on what they're capable of being in this season here. So my first question overall, who is more concerning that will turn into a full-out committee? Is it Antonio Gibson or is it Josh Jacobs?
I would be more concerned about Antonio Gibson, I suppose. I just don't see. We were told Kenyon Drake was going to take a significant role last season. I know it's Josh McDaniel now, and he's coming from the Patriot offense. Man, these guys are just totally Brandon Bolden. It's just these guys are Zamir White. These guys don't mean much to me personally. I think it could, Zamir White's a good dynasty pick. Yeah, they could be using him a lot in year 2. He could be, he could be that Ramondre Stevenson type going into year 2, where he's picking up a lot of steam, especially if he gets some practice hype. But Josh Jacobs is somebody I've been drafting a lot, especially in best ball and redraft leagues. So I would definitely be a little bit more concerned about Gibson, but I don't see him going in the top 48 picks really. I picked up Gibson in the at the 8-1 the other day. It was crazy. I just couldn't. I was just like, do I have to read? I Googled up his name just to see if he had a significant injury. So I think the hate's a little overblown. I think you don't hate players, you hate the ADP. So Gibson was somebody I haven't been a fan of for years. But now that he's being drafted at past RB2 range in most drafts that I'm in, at least, I think he's a good value too.
That's a coin flip for me. I guess I'll stick with Gibson for my point earlier with their influx of talent they brought in. And I don't know. Yeah, that's about it for me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm with you guys. Gibson makes the most sense overall. I mean, I think Josh Jacobs could get there, and I think it's something that people aren't talking enough about with Kenyon Drake coming back healthy now. I mean, they brought in Brendan Bolden, a pass catching back. They have Jalen Richard still there, and we know that that Patriots, Josh McDaniel offensive mindset always kind of liked having multiple backs. But it clearly shows that Antonio Gibson is going to be in some kind of committee where all three of these running backs and J.D. McKissic, Brian Robinson, and Gibson all going to be on the field at some time this season here, and it kind of just hurts his value overall. I mean, I don't know if I'd even feel comfortable with Gibson as my RB2 currently right now. I'd probably feel more comfortable using Josh Jacobs as an RB2 if I had to, but Gibson definitely scares me a little bit right now. Another question here, guys. J.K. Dobbins got put on the pump early on in end of July here. Again, he's still sitting there. Again, he could be off any day now. We have no idea. But are you guys drafting a guy like J.K. Dobbins if he's still sitting on the pump by the time you guys are drafting?
I have heard that he's farther along than Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards, it seems like he's going to miss the beginning of the season. I think just based on the coach speak, the tea leaves I'm reading, I think J.K. Dobbins will be out there maybe in a limited role week 1. Like I said, it just depends on the range. Back when he was being drafted as a mid RB2 kind of a couple months ago, that I was a little shyer there. But, like I said, now I see him going at RB 21, 22. That could be a good value there. You're just shooting for upside at that point. If you started off your draft with wide receivers, J.K. Dobbins is a pretty high upside pick there. I don't know if he has a lot of PPR upside. Lamar Jackson is pretty much the RB1 in that offense, so that keeps him as a lower RB2 for me. But that's the range he's going in, so I'm fine drafting J.K. Dobbins there.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right with taking him. I think I might kind of just pump the brakes and probably let it be someone else's problem. I'll probably give him a round discount, but other than that, you're still gonna get a pretty good running back who's going to share the workload with two other people, but he's still playing that Ravens offense, and you need bodies at the running back position. And if you got that guy as an insurance policy for your first 2 running backs, or if you're starting off the team as him being your lead back to some degree, I feel like it's a good play either way.
Yeah, I'm pretty torn on this one here when I put this question up there because if he's still sitting on the pump by the time I draft, and again, it could be someone could draft tomorrow, someone could draft end of September. It really just depends on when you draft. I think the later your draft is and the longer he's on that pump list for at that point, I think there's major concerns. If you draft in a week from now and he's on the pump, there's a good chance he could still be off it. But if you're drafting the end of August, beginning of September, and he's still sitting on that pump list, we'll probably know if he's going to be on the pump at that point. Definitely would be turned off and wanting to go get him. I don't know. I'm just concerned with J.K. Dobbins because, he's coming off a pretty significant injury here. And we've seen some of these running backs. We thought at one point, running backs just come back. They come back, but they might need time to really be back to who they are. And we've seen that with a guy like Saquon Barkley over the last couple of seasons where he's come back. It's great. He's come back. But he's not the same guy we saw prior to the injury here. So to me, that's starting to concern me a little bit more with these running backs getting hurt more often is that, yeah, they come back quicker than we expect, but they're just not the same explosive. They don't have the same explosiveness. And I think if you're taking him as your RB2, I think you're asking for trouble. I think better off as an RB3 currently right now. Again, that's why he's got question marks because I don't know if he can perform to that level we saw late in his rookie year this coming season here, especially with maybe them using more running backs to keep him from overworking in his first year back from a major injury. So that's kind of my big thing on J.K. Dobbins right now. And we have time, so let's go one more question here. Let's talk about Breece Hall. What is your guys' realistic expectation for Breece Hall his rookie year now? I mean, we've seen a lot of rookies that are drafted high. There's a lot of he's got to break out. He's seeing the full workload here. Now, that may be possible, but, we have Michael Carter there. He's on a team like New York Jets, who we really don't want to draft over the last decade, at least, in terms of fantasy players here. What is your guys' realistic outlook for a guy like Breece Hall this coming season?
I'm not too worried about Michael Carter. Zach Wilson never targeted Michael Carter more than 3 times in a game. I don't think he's a special talent that's going to keep Breece Hall on the field. I actually have Breece Hall as my dynasty RB5 already, so I'm all in on Breece Hall. I'm a big fan, love the talent. I think I love taking the risk on first round running backs. Just because they have the similar hit rate to veteran running backs, and then you're getting them at discount. I guess I'm going in a little bit dynasty there, but Breece Hall is my RB 14 in redraft still, so I like him at his ADP. I've seen him go. I've seen him ranked as the RB 20 according to site. So, he's somebody I think I have him on my Scott Fishbowl roster. I think I picked him up. Yeah, it's just somebody I think he's going to catch passes. I think he's that next running back. I don't think the Jets are in a position talent-wise to take a running back and then not play him a bunch and treat it like a luxury position. So I think he's going to have a big role. I know the Jets offense might not be that great, but when you're locked in for volume, for that kind of volume, I think he's going to get I think he'll just have more value as the season goes along too. So Breece Hall is somebody I've drafted a lot in round 4 or 5. So somebody I like a lot this year.
A slow cooker. That's what I think of him. Like, I don't think he's going to come out the gate firing like the rookie year like Kareem Hunt had or Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor came on at the end of his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. But I could just see something like that. Just as a strong play that you're getting in the 4th round, in some cases of your drafts that you're just kind of banking on. Like, I don't think he's going to be a 15-point PPR scorer week to week, especially given he's playing for the Jets and that offense. But hey, if everything goes right and the Jets are amazing somehow, it kind of pains me to say that, but you could probably have a rock star running back and early on. But like, I think towards the end of the season, when he definitely gets acclimated and whatnot, I think he'll definitely have a lion's share of the rushing attempts and probably like the production, just because they invested that high pick in him, and Michael Carter's just a guy.
Okay. I love both your guys' take overall because for some reason, I'm a big Jets fan this year. I hate to say that as a Dolphins fan, but apparently I am. But the way I see Breece Hall coming in the season, I think he does get off to a slower start. I mean, if you look at the schedule early on, they have a pretty tough schedule first half of the season here. In the second half, it gets a little bit easier, especially down at the end, especially in the fantasy playoffs. I think either you draft Breece Hall at the value like, maybe that's round 5, round 6, maybe it's round 4, and you have to just assume that he might not get off to the quickest start where people might get frustrated with that. Maybe they're just early on, split or whatever it may be. Maybe they'll lose him so badly that they're just not throwing him in enough on the offense here. And I think if you do that, you have to understand that you're going to have to use him for the long haul. Because I think at some point during the season, he's going to get a stretch of games where he's just going off for us in fantasy. And we're all going to be talking about him by midseason or maybe even late in the season that, oh, God, Breece Hall is looking great as a rookie of the year potential right there. Or you can just not draft him and wait for the first month to go by. And I think people might be able to get him on the cheap, honestly. I think the first 4 games this season he has against the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, and the Steelers. And that's a tough stretch of AFC North games they have to go through to begin their season. It's funny they actually play all 4 AFC North games to start the season, but that's tough run defenses right there. So you might be able to get him on the cheap at some point because rookies seem to go cheaper when they're not performing to that high level off the bat. So you can go either way with it. I think there's expectation where he finishes with like 800 yards still, maybe a couple hundred in the air, 5 or 6 touchdowns maybe. But I just don't think he's going to have one of those elite seasons where he's just going off no business whatsoever. So it's kind of how I see him. Kyle, what's up, brother? Thanks for joining in. But that's going to wrap us up today, guys. That was our RB tiers, part 1. First 24 players or so, 20 players. We will have a part 2 on Monday night. Next week, Coach John should be back for that, hopefully. Let's see. Coach Emerson, is there anything you want to say, brother? I know you're working on some other things out there, so if you have, this is your time to shout out some stuff, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, you can follow me. My Twitter handle's below. I do some editing for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I do threads there analyzing all 32 NFL teams before the season. I do some writing for the Fantasy Coaches Podcast as well. One of my, you guys are awesome. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. And I also write for 5 Yard Rush as well. So on all those sites, you can see some of my work. Frequent podcast guest. Anytime you guys need me, let me know.
I always got you. We appreciate you jumping on for sure, filling in. Coach Jibbs, Anything you want to say, brother? You're done for the night. I love it. But yeah, we thank you all for listening in tonight, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these RB tiers. Like I said, we'll have RB tiers part 2 next Monday night. We're 2 times a week now, guys. Some things that are going on here at the Fantasy Coaches. We will be having our charity podathon August 16th from 3 to 11. Bunch of different guests coming on, bunch of different fantasy talk, helping raising money for the Humane Society of the United States. Just trying to help them out. We did a great job last year, like over $300. We're hoping to double it this year. We're off to a great start. Our charity leagues are just about full. So if you're looking to get in our charity leagues, there's a few spots left. As always, please go check out our website, www.thefantasycoaches.com. We got articles. We have the rankings. We have our other podcasts, the Dynasty Coaches. We have us. We have our detailed statistical playbook that's up there now. A lot of fun that I put together. Hopefully you guys enjoy that during the season here. But again, for all of our updates, please follow us on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Tune in until next time, guys. Thanks for listening, and have a great one.
Thanks a lot.